1930s were brutal. Unemployment hit 25%. Families were losing everything, and the women holding those households together had to become chemists, doctors, pest controllers, and cleaning engineers all at once. Borax was their secret weapon, cheap, accessible, and powerful in ways that modern science is only now beginning to fully appreciate. Number 25. The Curtain Brightening Soak. During the Great Depression, lace curtains were not decorative extras. They were status symbols. They told your neighbors you still had dignity, even when you had nothing else. Grandma would dissolve 2 tablespoons of borax in a basin of warm water and soak yellowed curtains for 45 minutes before washing. For decades, fabric care experts told consumers this was damaging to delicate fibers. Too alkaline, they said. Skip it. But recent textile preservation studies have shown that borax actually buffers pH levels in a way that's gentler on aged cotton lace than modern enzymatic detergents. The scientists came around. Grandma was right all along. Number 24. The Flour Barrel Weevil Deterrent. Food security in the 1930s was not a concept. It was a daily obsession. Grandma would place a small cloth sachet filled with borax powder in the corners of her flour barrel and grain storage bins. Health authorities would later classify this as a contamination risk and actively discourage the practice for decades. But entomological research has since confirmed that borax disrupts the exoskeleton of grain weevils and other stored food pests without penetrating the grain itself when used correctly in enclosed sachets. The key phrase is when used correctly. Grandma understood that. The warning labels didn't give her enough credit. Number 23. The Cast Iron Rust Rescue. Cast iron was the 1930s kitchen workhorse. Every Depression-era household had at least one skillet passed down through generations. When rust appeared, Grandma would make a thick paste from borax and lemon juice, scrub the affected area, let it sit for 20 minutes, then rinse and reseason immediately. Cookware manufacturers spent decades insisting this would damage the iron surface. Culinary scientists studying traditional cookware restoration have now demonstrated that the mild abrasive action combined with borax's chemical properties actually removes oxidation without the micro-pitting that harsh commercial rust removers cause. Grandma's skillet outlasted everything those manufacturers ever sold. Number 22. The Mattress Freshening Technique. Mattresses in the 1930s were expensive luxuries that families expected to last decades. When body odors became problematic, Grandma would lightly dust the mattress surface with dry borax powder. Let it sit for 2 hours, then brush it thoroughly away and air the mattress in direct sunlight. Sleep hygiene experts in later decades condemned this as a respiratory hazard and an ineffective remedy. But microbiological studies on textile hygiene have demonstrated that borax disrupts the cellular membranes of odor-producing bacteria with remarkable effectiveness. The sunlight and airflow component that Grandma always insisted on also turns out to be scientifically critical to the process. She was doing everything right. Number 21. The Armpit Stain Remover. Here is where things start getting genuinely fascinating. Yellowed armpit stains were a significant problem in the 1930s when a single good shirt might represent a week's wages. Grandma's solution was to create a paste using borax, white vinegar, and just enough water to bind it, then press this mixture firmly into the stained fabric and leave it for 3 hours before washing. This practice was later banned from dry cleaning industry recommendations and flagged by fabric care guilds as potentially bleaching colored garments irreversibly. What scientists now understand is that the specific combination of borax with acetic acid creates a mild oxidizing reaction that targets the exact protein compounds responsible for yellow staining without affecting the dye structure of most cotton fabrics. The technique works. It was the industrial economy protecting its own interests that suppressed it. Number 21 was a revelation. But number 20 is where Grandma got creative in ways that still seem almost impossible. Number 20. The Window Glass Streak Eliminator. Streak-free windows were a point of household pride during the Depression era, and Grandma achieved it with nothing more than a solution of half a teaspoon of borax dissolved in 2 cups of warm water, applied with a cloth and buffed dry. The glass cleaning industry spent decades promoting ammonia-based and alcohol-based products as the only scientifically sound approach to streak-free glass. Borax solutions were dismissed as leaving mineral residue. However, surface chemistry research has since shown that borax creates a temporary hydrophobic layer on glass that actually repels dust adhesion for up to a week longer than ammonia solutions. The streak-free result is also superior on old wavy Depression-era glass, which is notoriously difficult to clean without optical distortion. Number 19. The foot-soaking remedy. Pay close attention to this one because it became one of the most actively suppressed practices of the entire post-Depression era. During the 1930s, when shoes wore out and podiatrists were unaffordable luxuries, Grandma would prepare a foot soak using 2 tablespoons of borax dissolved in a basin of comfortably warm water and soak tired, aching, cracked feet for 20 minutes twice a week. This practice was specifically targeted by the American podiatric establishment in the mid-20th century, with published guidelines stating that borax foot soaks were ineffective, potentially irritating, and should be replaced with commercial antifungal products. Here is what those guidelines conveniently ignored. Dermatological research has since confirmed that borax foot soaks demonstrate genuine antifungal and antibacterial properties that address the actual causes of foot odor, athlete's foot, and minor skin cracking. The alkaline environment created by the borax soak inhibits fungal growth through a completely different mechanism than modern antifungal medications, making it particularly effective against strains that have developed resistance. Grandma was treating resistant fungal infections before scientists even understood what resistance meant. Number 18. The Ant Highway Disruption Powder. Depression-era homes dealt with ant infestations without the option of calling an exterminator. Grandma would trace the visible ant trail back toward entry points and lay down thin lines of borax powder mixed with powdered sugar along the perimeter of the kitchen. This technique was later prohibited by pest control industry regulations in several states, classified as an unlicensed pesticide application, and deemed ineffective in pest control industry publications that happened to be funded by chemical companies. Independent entomological studies have since validated that borax bait mixtures are among the most effective long-term ant control methods available because ants carry the borax back to the colony rather than dying at the application site, disrupting the entire population rather than just surface foragers. Number 17. The diaper pail sanitation method. In the 1930s, cloth diapers were the only option, and sanitation was a genuine survival concern for infants. Grandma would add a tablespoon of borax to the diaper-soaking pail along with water to neutralize ammonia compounds and inhibit bacterial growth between washes. Pediatric health authorities in later decades actively discouraged this practice, citing skin sensitivity concerns for infants. However, textile hygiene researchers have demonstrated that when properly diluted and thoroughly rinsed, borax-treated diapers show significantly lower bacterial counts than water-only soaking methods. The ammonia neutralization function is particularly important, as ammonia buildup in cloth diapers is directly linked to diaper rash, which Grandma's generation had remarkably lower rates of despite having inferior access to health care. Number 16. The toilet bowl deep clean. Grandma would pour a full cup of borax into the toilet bowl before bed and let it work overnight, then scrub and flush in the morning. Commercial toilet cleaning product manufacturers spent decades insisting that specialized acidic cleaners were the only effective approach to mineral deposits and bacterial biofilms in toilet bowls. Borax was called an old wives' trick that accomplished nothing meaningful. Microbiological testing has since shown that an overnight borax soak creates an alkaline environment that effectively dissolves the calcium and magnesium deposits responsible for most toilet bowl staining while simultaneously disrupting bacterial biofilm structures in ways that brief application of acidic cleaners cannot achieve. Grandma had patience. That was her chemistry. Number 15. The refrigerator mold prevention wipe. Before reliable refrigeration was common, Grandma used an icebox, and mold was a constant battle. She would wipe down the interior surfaces with a cloth dampened in a weak borax solution after each cleaning. Food safety authorities in the modern era classified this as introducing a potentially toxic compound into food storage areas and recommended bleach-based sanitizers exclusively. What food science research has revealed is that borax creates a residual alkaline coating on surfaces that inhibits mold spore germination for significantly longer than bleach, which evaporates and loses effectiveness within hours. Grandma was achieving days of mold protection from a single wipe down. The refrigerator industry's official cleaning guidelines are still catching up. Number 14. The leather shoe preservation treatment. Shoes were precious in the 1930s. A working man's boots might represent the difference between employment and destitution. Grandma would occasionally wipe leather shoes with a very lightly dampened cloth that had been dipped in a dilute borax solution, then immediately buff them dry and condition with tallow or lard. Leather goods manufacturers and shoe care product companies specifically warned against this practice, claiming borax would dry out and crack leather. Leather chemistry research has since shown that borax's mild action helps remove salt residue from sweat, which is actually the primary cause of leather cracking and deterioration over time. The companies selling specialized shoe care products had every financial reason to discourage this simple solution. Number 13. The preserved flower drying method. Depression-era women found meaning and beauty in small things. Preserving flowers from a garden that might be the only beautiful thing on a struggling homestead was genuinely important. Grandma would bury cut flowers in a mixture of borax and cornmeal for 2 weeks to draw out moisture and preserve color. Florist trade associations in the mid-20th century pushed silica gel desiccants as the scientifically correct approach and dismissed borax flower preservation as producing inferior results with potential color damage. Botanical preservation studies have since documented that the borax and cornmeal combination actually preserves the natural color compounds in flower petals more effectively than silica gel for many species, because the gradual drying rate prevents the oxidation that rapid silica drying can cause. Number 12. The silver polishing paste. Whatever silver a Depression-era family possessed was treasured and maintained meticulously. Grandma would create a paste from borax and water to polish tarnished silver pieces, working gently with a soft cloth, then rinsing thoroughly. Silverware manufacturers and jewelry industry publications specifically warned consumers that borax was too abrasive for silver surfaces and would cause microscopic scratching. Metallurgical analysis has since shown that borax particles at the size that dissolve into paste form are actually softer than the silver tarnish compounds they remove, meaning they polish away the tarnish without touching the underlying metal, unlike many commercial silver polishes that contain harsher abrasive compounds. Number 11. The garden pest barrier. Depression-era gardens were not hobbies. They were survival infrastructure. Grandma would create a barrier of diluted borax solution painted along the base of raised garden beds and along fence lines to deter slugs, certain beetles, and crawling insects. Agricultural extension services in later decades classified borax as harmful to soil microbiomes and specifically prohibited its use in proximity to food gardens. Recent soil science research has established that when applied correctly to the perimeter structures rather than the soil itself, borax creates a contact barrier with minimal soil penetration that degrades naturally within a few weeks. Grandma never poured it on her plants. She painted it on her borders. The prohibition ignored that crucial distinction. Number 10. The musty book restoration method. Books were treasures in the 1930s, passed down and shared through lending between neighbors. When moisture had gotten to a beloved volume and mildew had set in, Grandma would seal the book in a paper bag with a small cup of dry borax for 2 weeks. Library preservation specialists later classified this as potentially damaging to paper fibers and ink compounds, recommending professional freeze drying as the only acceptable intervention. Conservation science research has since demonstrated that for mild to moderate mildew infestations on paper, borax vapor in an enclosed environment inhibits mold growth and actually halts active deterioration without the structural shock to aged paper that temperature-based methods can cause. Number 9. The wood rot prevention treatment. Depression-era homes required constant maintenance with minimal resources. When Grandma discovered early wood rot on porch boards or window frames, she would dissolve borax in hot water until saturation and paint the solution repeatedly onto affected wood. This practice was later prohibited by building code inspectors in many jurisdictions who required licensed contractors with approved chemical treatments for any rot remediation work. Wood science research has since validated borax as one of the most effective wood rot fungicide treatments available, capable of penetrating deep into wood fiber in ways that surface-applied commercial products cannot achieve, with studies showing it stops active rot fungus more reliably than many expensive commercial alternatives. Number 8. The grout cleaning and sealing combination. Tile grout in the 1930s was often the original installation from decades prior, and keeping it clean was a matter of home hygiene. Grandma would scrub grout lines with a stiff brush dipped in concentrated borax paste. Leave it for an hour, then rinse. Tile industry professionals dismiss this as ineffective on biological growth in porous grout and potentially bleaching colored grout. Materials science research has confirmed that borax penetrates porous grout surfaces and creates an alkaline environment that prevents mold and mildew regrowth for significantly longer than surface-level bleach applications, which only address visible growth without reaching the deeper biological contamination. Number 7. The wool moth deterrent storage method. Wool was too expensive in the 1930s to lose to moths. Grandma would wrap stored woolens with paper that had been dampened with a borax solution and allowed to dry completely before wrapping. The textile storage industry later condemned this practice as insufficiently proven and potentially affecting wool fiber integrity. Entomological research has validated that dried borax residue on storage paper creates a contact deterrent for clothes moths that is more consistently effective than cedar and lavender alternatives because it works through direct chemical disruption rather than scent masking. Number 6. The kitchen drain deodorizer. Weekly kitchen drain maintenance during the Depression involved pouring a cup of borax dissolved in boiling water down every drain. Professional plumbers later classified this as ineffective on grease clogs and potentially harmful to older pipe materials. Plumbing and microbiology research has since demonstrated that hot borax solutions effectively dissolve the biofilm layer responsible for drain odors in ways that commercial drain deodorizers cannot achieve, without the pipe corroding effects of the acid or lye-based alternatives that replaced it. Number 5. The ink stain emergency treatment. With paper and writing materials being precious commodities in the 1930s, getting ink on a garment was a minor catastrophe. Grandma would immediately make a paste from borax and cold water, press it into the ink stain, and allow it to dry completely before brushing away and washing. The dry cleaning industry specifically warned customers that home ink stain treatment with any household compound would set stains permanently. Chemistry research has since shown that borax's interaction with iron gall inks, which were the most common writing inks of the 1930s, actually breaks the tannin-iron bond that makes these inks so permanent, making them far more washable than if the stain had been left to set. Number 4. The homemade dish soap booster. Dish soap was a scarce commodity during the Depression. Grandma would add a teaspoon of borax to her wash tub, along with her limited soap supply to extend its cleaning power. Consumer product companies aggressively discouraged this in their marketing materials, claiming that borax interfered with soap chemistry and actually reduced cleaning effectiveness. The chemistry is exactly opposite to what those companies claimed. Borax softens water by chelating the calcium and magnesium ions that reduce soap effectiveness, meaning Grandma's small addition of borax made her limited soap dramatically more powerful. The companies discouraging the practice sold more soap as a result. Number 3. The mildew-proofing outdoor canvas treatment. Canvas awnings, tarps, and work gear were expensive Depression-era investments. Grandma would soak new canvas items in a strong borax solution before their first use, then allow them to dry completely in the sun. Outdoor equipment manufacturers later warned that this would stiffen canvas and reduce its weather resistance. Materials testing has since confirmed that borax-treated canvas resists mildew formation for significantly longer than untreated canvas, with the treatment becoming less effective only after the canvas has been thoroughly wetted and dried multiple times. Grandma retreated seasonally. She understood the maintenance cycle that the manufacturers pretended didn't work. Number 2. The persistent roach combat method. This was the most whispered about practice in Depression-era neighborhoods. Grandma would mix borax with equal parts white flour and powdered sugar, then place small amounts behind appliances, inside cabinet toe kicks, and along wall junctions in the kitchen. Health inspectors and later pest control licensing boards specifically prohibited unlicensed pest control applications in residential properties, and the chemicals industry pushed hard to classify borax as an unsafe home application. The reality is that this mixture remains one of the most scientifically validated methods for long-term cockroach population elimination because it targets the entire population through the same foraging and feeding sharing behaviors that make cockroaches so difficult to eliminate with fast-acting contact poisons. And here we are at number 1. The single borax hack from the Great Depression that scientists have most enthusiastically validated, the one that generated the most controversy when authorities tried to suppress it, and the one that Grandma performed with the most absolute quiet confidence. Number 1. The whole house air quality and humidity management system. This isn't a single trick. It's a philosophy. During the Great Depression, Grandma would place open, shallow dishes of dry borax powder in specific locations throughout the house, under beds, in closet corners, in basement corners, and on windowsills. She understood from passed-down household knowledge that borax naturally absorbs excess moisture from the air, and that maintaining lower indoor humidity prevented the mold, mildew, dust mite proliferation, and respiratory illness that accompanied damp Depression-era housing. Authorities later classified this as pseudoscience with no measurable impact on indoor air quality. Indoor environmental quality researchers have since confirmed that borax functions as a genuine hygroscopic agent with real moisture-absorbing capacity, and that reduced indoor humidity directly correlates with lower mold spore counts, lower dust mite populations, and measurably improved respiratory outcomes for occupants.